Welcome to the Empowerment Zone with Ramona Houston, where we zone in on Black and Brown relations and our journey to empowering our communities.
Thank you for joining the Empowerment Zone. I am your host, Ramona Houston. Health and wellness is one of those topics that we promote here on the Empowerment Zone because we know that if you're going to make an impact in this world, you need to be healthy and well in order to do impactful work. And so I am absolutely thrilled that I have Mr. Melvin Louis Houston here today. It's Uncle Lou, my uncle. Who is a big advocate of health and wellness. People always ask me, why am I so committed to my health plan, nutrition and exercise plan? And I must admit, my Uncle Lou is one of my inspirations. Melvin Houston is actually from my hometown. He was actually born in Brownwood, Texas. He has a 51 year history of coaching. He has been a coach at Coronado High School until he retired in 2002, and now he's coaching at Estacada High School. Both of these schools are in Lubbock, Texas. Uncle Lou is from Brownwood, as stated, and he went to high school actually in San Antonio, Texas. He started off at Breckenridge High School and then later went to St. Peter Claver High School. He is a graduate of an HBCU, Historically Black College and University, Texas Southern University, which is located in Houston, Texas. And there he was a member of the track and field program. In fact, while he was at Texas Southern University, also called TSU, he was a part of the first Black team, African-American team, to run in the Texas Relays in 1962. And so he also made history. The Texas Relays, which are held at the University of Texas at Austin, my alma mater, is one of the most prestigious track and field meets in the entire country. So welcome to the Empowerment Zone. I am your host, Ramona Houston, and I am so excited to have Uncle Lou here. He turned 81 years old last month, and as you can imagine, he's still healthy and strong, and so we're glad to have him here. Hi, Uncle Lou.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing fine.
We have a chance to talk with you and all. A little nervous, of course.
I can't believe that.
Well, once I get to talking, that'll leave.
I'm sure. Well, one of the things I admire you for all these years, growing up, when you would come home and visit in Brownwood, you'd always, take your little morning jog. You wouldn't overeat like the rest of us when we were eating our food and just had really, really good health habits. And that's why I thought of you when talking about health and wellness in the African American and Latino communities, that, you could provide some really much needed advice on how we can become healthier in our individual lives and in our community. So before we get started on that topic, can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and, give us a little history? Give us some of that Texas history.
Okay, I was born in Brownwood, Texas in 1940, March the 27th, 1940, and was raised in Brownwood up through the 9th grade. Naturally, during that time, everything was segregated. I went through 1st grade all the way through 9th grade at a segregated high school. And over the summer, we moved to San Antonio, and I played with, with the black kids, boys my age, and they were all basically going to Wheatley. So when time came for me to go register at school, me and Daddy got in the car. I got in the car going to Wheatley, and Daddy evidently was in the car going to Brackenridge. So when Daddy made a left turn, I said, Daddy, that's the wrong way to Wheatley. He said, I'm sorry, son, but I'm taking you to Brackenridge. San Antonio has integrated. Now, that was the fall of 1955. But anyway, I ended up going to Brackenridge. It's so much that I could say, I had some good times and I had some bad times there, because that first year, out of 3,000 students, there was 3 black kids, 1 black boy and 2 black girls. You'll notice I'll use black versus African American because I was always accustomed to saying black. I know nowadays the younger people do say African American. And in many cases, also Hispanics. I say Hispanics where many people will say Latinos. So hopefully, as I talk about things like this, that they will understand. I played basketball and football my sophomore year, but I also ran track, and track was my thing. So my junior and senior year at Breckenridge High School, I just ran track, and as a I could say 11th grader, I started really developing into track. Going to the state meet, and we did pretty good. And the next year, as a senior, uh, we tied the state record. Oh no, we broke the state record and tied the national record in the 4x1. There's so many other things I could talk to you about, but I think I need to kind of skip. I ended up going to St. Peter Claver. I was about 3 credits short of graduating from Breckenridge. So I decided to go to St. Peter Claver, which was a Catholic school, private school. And that's one of the best decisions, I can tell you truthfully, that was one of the best decisions I ever made. I was going to graduate at midterm and then go on to Texas Southern. But when I got to St. Peter, the nuns, the teachers there, they didn't take, they didn't put me on in the back seat, in the back of the room and not have time to work with me. They worked with me with my algebra, trigonometry, the biology, the things that, where I needed help but couldn't get help because I didn't get help from those teachers there at Breckenridge. And then from there, I went to Texas Southern on an athletic scholarship to run track. And I guess in a way, the rest of that aspect of it was history, as far as my athletic, uh, taking part in the athletic program there at Texas Southern. During the time at Texas Southern, we made a lot of history, like at the Texas Relays in 1962, we ran in 5 relays and set new 5 records, And the good thing about that is when the anchor man, no matter what race it was, whether it's the shorter race or the longest race, the people stood up and clapped until the anchor man crossed the finish line. And that was, for me, was a new beginning.
So do you remember the names of your teammates, some of your teammates?
Yeah.
You wanted
Homer
to,
Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Homer Jones was one. Major Adams, and you notice that name Adams.
Mm-hmm.
That great gospel singer name.
Say a name. Yolanda Adams.
Adams, that was her daddy. And then, just to make it good, which would be the truth, I would say, you probably won't believe it, but I used to change her diaper. My son Major is named after her father, Major. And, Allen, is named after my brother, Major
Mm-hmm.
Allen.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's some history there too,
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so,
Any of your other teammates, you remember their names?
yeah, Lester Milburn,
Mm-hmm.
Ray Sadler. Ray Sadler was from California. All the rest, well, no, I take that back. Ray Sadler, there's one other guy, his name, it'll come to me here in a bit. He was also from California. Everybody else was from Texas. But on that particular relay team or teams at that time was from Texas. Homer Jones, he was, we called him Rhino because he was big and strong, even though he was one of the better sprinters. But we nicknamed him Rhino because uh, somebody had to stand on the blocks when he took off. He would come out with so powerful he would knock the blocks up. Back in our day, the tracks were cinder track,
Mm-hmm.
cinder track. So you had to nail them into the ground. It's not like that, like they are now, where all weather track.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah. But anyway, we had uh, a good time. We was excited to be able to run at the Texas Relays at that time. Even though I ran at the Texas Relays, I tease with the girls sometimes that I coach and say, hey, when you look at me, you're looking at history. I was the first Black athlete to win an open race in the Texas Relays in the high school division in the 400.
Mm. I find this history extremely interesting because you are actually an integration baby. Like you were the generation that actually integrated, went through the integration process. When you look at San Antonio, the Brown versus Board of Education decision happened in 1954. And San
Right.
Antonio was one of the first major cities in the South. I think it was the first major city in the South to desegregate. And so for you to go to high school in 1955, that's pretty incredible because a lot of schools waited a long time before they desegregated.
That's true. Corpus Christi was one of those schools.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Brownsville. Brownsville was
Mm-hmm.
one of those.
Mm-hmm.
If you notice, those were more in, I guess, central or more where there were a lot of, like I said, Hispanics that were there, and and for whatever reason, um, we never, I had incidents, like my first year there, I could never eat breakfast because my stomach was always nervous.
Mm-hmm.
But then the more Black kids started coming into the high school, having some boys to talk with, the way we talk versus the way you have to say the way they talk, and then things got better as far as being able to eat breakfast in the morning before I went to school, But
And
it was,
and I must also say, in addition to that, San Antonio, I must say our hometown of Brownwood was desegregated in 1955 as well. So we can't, with us being Brownwood bred, we have to acknowledge our hometown too. But
yeah,
and thank you for sharing your story about the Texas relays and your classmates who ran with you and the records that you all broke and that you broke individually. So let's move on to talking about health and wellness. I know that you're very much committed to um, just taking care of yourself, and I really wanted you to provide some advice and direction on, what that entails and what your journey has been in terms of health and wellness.
well, as being an athlete, and mom and daddy, always backed us boys in athletics, and they always tried to see that we ate properly, always had, you would say orange juice, grape juice, milk, uh, we ate a lot of, in the mornings we had cereal when mama cooked breakfast, um, she made sure we had cod liver oil. Back in those days, everybody had to take cod liver oil. And also in the winter, Mama would give us a real small glass of wine. She said that built blood, and we would always try to keep that wine breath, so we could go at the kid's face, say, can you smell that wine? Can but but that was one, we like during the training period, I didn't drink sodas or anything. I'm always made sure I drank water and juice, and always tried to eat properly. Back in our day, you had breakfast. Well, I had lunch at school, and then Mama always cooked supper at night, you know. And during the summer, we would have our three meals, breakfast, lunch, and back then we called it supper, you know, dinner, but we always had that. And we Mama always made sure we drank milk. She said that helped make your bones strong and your teeth strong, So that's, coming up, that's basically the way it was with us, And many times we also had gardens, the greens, corn, black-eyed peas, green beans, radishes, all of that stuff. We had in the backyard that we grew every year.
Mhm.
So,
Well, a lot of people come up in athletics, but they don't necessarily stay committed to their health regimens. What really inspired you to stay committed?
well, what when I became a coach, I felt without a doubt I should set an example. You know, I I, I remember going to coaching school like my first year as a teacher and a coach, and I saw all these young men that had been athletes, and they had that their stomach hanging over it hurt, and I always say, well, if I'm gonna be a coach, I need to make sure that these kids understand how important it is, to eat correctly, and you want to get the body in shape, but you also want to eat properly and everything. And so I made up my mind then that I was going to stay like I was in high school and college, that I was going to try to eat right and do what I needed to do to stay, to keep my weight under control. Let's put it like that. And so I started running with my kids. When they did their sit-ups, and I think you call it core now. When we did our sit-ups and did the weights, I also did that. Whenever I could run with them, I would run with them. And, it's something that's a fact. Many Blacks don't feel that they can run distance. Well, the way I started running distance was I started out when I became a high school coach, and I was over the cross country program, and I started running distance with the kids. Every time they made an improvement in running a mile, 2 miles, even up to 5 miles, I was making that improvement also. And so it just carried on. During the summer, before we started workout, I just kept running on my own because I felt I had to stay in shape. So when we started running back together, as a team, that, I wouldn't be behind. And
Mhm.
the good thing about that was being able to run with the boys and the girls. And when, mentally you break down and you want to stop, I say, hey, hey, you can't keep up with the old man. So in the many instances, they get that second win and say, all right, come on, coach, here we go. So it's something that I've done all these years. I don't run, I don't walk as fast as I used to. If you understand 81, I think you understand what I mean. I still do my sit-ups. I still do my weights. I still try to eat properly, even though, like we was talking about your mother cooking some sweets. Well, every once in a while, the wife cook a cake. I still eat a little sugar. I make sure I don't eat a lot of salt. I try to, my wife, when she cooks, she puts a little salt in the food, but I don't add salt to that. I eat the salt that she puts in as she's cooking, but then I see other people, no matter what, they get that salt shaker and they can't seem to stop. And that's not good. That is definitely not good. My weight, I've always kept my weight down. Like right now, I weigh 155. And it also really, actually, to me, from the compliments that I get, it makes you look younger, you know. And people are surprised that I tell them my age, and they say, well, I think they look at what they see other people that's maybe a little bit younger or my age that's, I guess you say, that's out of shape. And I think you know what I mean when I say that. Uh, you know, you see their ankles swollen. You know, they on all different types of medication. That at one point in time I was on high blood pressure medicine, but the doctor took me. He said, "You don't need to be taking this." He took me off of it, and I still take my blood pressure to make sure something don't slip up on me. But I try not to eat anything after 6 o'clock p.m. because in many instances, if you eat at 8 o'clock and then go to bed at 9, that's really not, in my opinion, not healthy. This is one of the ways that you can gain weight because you're not burning those calories. Yes, you do burn some calories while you're sleeping, but not like it is when you're up and moving about. I work in my yard, and even though I don't, I do it to help keep me busy. I cut a couple of yards, to keep me physically, active of doing something. But even though, these are just some of the things that I do to try to keep me healthy. I retired in 2002 from teaching, but I didn't stop coaching. My intentions was to stop coaching. But when I retired, the coach that I work with in physical education was also the tennis coach. And he said, "Hey, I need you to come work with me with tennis." And I told him, Black people back in my day didn't play tennis. So I didn't know anything about tennis. I said, "I don't know nothing about tennis. I don't even know how to score the game." He said, "I will work with you and teach you." And he did that. And after that first year, it was understood that when he found another assistant coach that I would leave. That 1 year went to 7.5 years of working with tennis, you know. And I guess you say, in a way, the rest is history. I've been coaching ever since. Um, I coached at Monterey, which is another high school here in Lubbock. With him, when he moved, he took me with him. And then one day I got called in. They called me in and said, "Hey, I need you to come in and we need to talk to you about something." And I'm thinking, oh, well, I guess I must have said something out of place to one of the kids, or the kid thought I said something out of place. But what it was, they offered me to become the head cross country track coach at that particular school. And, and I stayed there and did that for 5 years. Then I retired again. And then for 5 years, I volunteered um, as a coach. And after that, I got called in and asked me would I come to Estacada, which is one I always wanted to coach at, and now I'm having that honor.
And that's something we hear your students sometimes coming in and out of your office in the background. So you're at Estacada now, correct?
I'm in Estacada because I am a part-time coach, and what I mean by that, I'll come to the school when I am coaching, So I didn't office, and this secretary was very nice and kind to allow me to come in and sit and have this interview here. And yeah, students do come in sometimes. Some of the teachers or so forth will come in, but they don't, they don't say anything once they see that, there's some business going on in the office.
Yeah, so looking at the history of your coaching activity, and it seems like you probably inspired a lot of students in Lubbock with a 51-year history in education there in Lubbock.
Well, that's true. Believe it or not, I've had the honor to coach some of the athletes that I coached. I've had the honor of coaching their daughters also.
Oh, wow. So you've got multiple generations, huh?
Right. Yeah. Many of the kids that I coached, they are still running. So you can imagine, these kids are now 45 and 50 years old now. And so, it's that's an honor. I appreciate it. And then there are some that will come and say, oh yeah, coach, I know, don't say nothing. I'm gonna start back to work. I'm gonna lose it.
So tell us if you could inspire our audience. I know you inspired me. I don't know if you remember, but one of the things that you told me back when I was in college about exercise, and I asked you, and I always tell people this when they ask me, how do I, what is my motivation for staying healthy? And one of the things you told me back when I was in college is damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like if you do exercise, it's going to take time, discipline, energy. And if you don't, it's going to cost you, health wise. So either way it goes, you're going to pay a price.
Well, that damn if you do, damn if you don't, I added more onto that. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. What kind of dam do you want? Now do you want a weak dam or a strong dam? And I the process of saying, have you seen a new home being built, how they start at the bottom and go up or build up? And I say, if you don't put in good material, then it's not gonna last, And I explain that to them, and and it's, what price are you willing to pay? And there is going to be a price to pay. One way or the other, you're gonna pay a price. Okay.
That's it. So what if? Go ahead. Go ahead and finish your statement.
I was just gonna say, I asked the kid, now, what price are you willing to pay? This is all of this comes under a whole lot of things. All of this comes under life. I tell kids, honestly, if I hadn't been an athlete, I don't know if I would have graduated from college, because there were many times I got in classes and I'll be saying, "Oh Lord, I don't know how I'm going to pass this class. This stuff is way over my head." And I would go back and I would think about all the tough workouts I had, and I survived. So I say, okay, and if I can survive that, I'm gonna hang in here with this class. And every time I came through with passing the class, but like I wasn't nowhere close to being a genius when it came to algebra or trigonometry, and all of that stuff. But anyway, I made it.
Mhm. Yeah, there's so much value to athletics, and one of them, which you've expanded on, is discipline. It teaches you about discipline, self-discipline. So if you could give our audience any advice on how to uh, do better with their health and wellness plan, what types of advice would you give them?
I would tell them first they need to sit down and think about their eating habits. That's one of the all races have a problem with it. Uh, you're gonna have to change. It's just like an alcoholic that goes through the alcoholic program to get free of alcohol. You got to always, you got to straighten up, as old saying goes, straighten up and fly right. and you got to leave that alone. That goes with, if you're getting ready to start a help program, okay, don't go back and think when you was 15, 16 years old and how you used to could run and do this and that. You got to start at the bottom and work up. This is what I tell people when they come and ask me, okay, you want to do some core work. Okay. Don't start out trying to do 100 sit-ups, 6 different ways, and don't have some kind of ill effect. You're going to get sore, you're going to strain something, and it's the same way running. Hey, start out walking.
Mhm.
Okay, once you get where you can walk at a brisk pace, hey, start walking and putting some jog in. And as you go through the process, this is the way I do it. Would tell people. Now you talk to someone else, they may tell you something different. I slowly start moving up to running more versus less walking, you know, and forget about time. If you run a mile and it takes you 10 minutes to run a mile or 12 minutes, okay. But if you keep at it, then it's going to get better. You're going to improve. You're going to get in shape, start getting in shape. And then you start clocking yourself and you're going to say, oh, I remember a month ago, I was down at running, say that mile at 12 minutes, and now I'm down to 8 minutes. You see, you just got to be patient and stay focused. And something else that I tell people, if you're going to start doing that, especially the physical aspect of it, get you a partner that's trying to do the same thing you're doing. Because it's going to come a time you're going to say, oh, I don't feel like it today. I'm not going to go run. I'm just, and then you get the call from your partner and say, okay, what time are we going? So then you drop everything, say, okay, I'll meet you in 30 minutes. And there we go. Now this is the way, I can tell you how I tell people. Someone else you asked, like I way with things. Uh, so and that's, I guess you say in a way, that's it in a nutshell, as to how I did. It's been times I had my knee scoped and I wasn't able to run. Well, I couldn't start back to running on the level that I was running, when I got where I was able to start back running again. I had hernia surgery. Well, I couldn't do my core, my sit-ups. I had to wait for that to heal, but I couldn't go back and start where I was. And if I did, something was going to happen. I was going to pull something or strain something by trying to pick back up where I left off. So
Uncle Lou, these are great pieces of advice, to start off, with your eating habits and develop a good nutrition and
nutrition, that's something else. Fruit, apples, oranges, grapes, plums, let that take up some of the, because that's less calories, that's involved, and also, like I said, eating habits. Try not to eat after 6 o'clock. Please, no later than 7. Okay. That's. I've talked to a number of people. I was a bus driver that used to drive us around all the time on athletic trips. If we didn't eat before 6 o'clock, he said, "Well, I'll just drink a glass of water or something, a bottle of water, because I don't eat after 6 o'clock."
Mhm.
See what I'm talking about? And again, it comes under damn if you do, damn if you don't.
Mhm. Mhm.
What damn you want, a weak damn
Mhm.
or a strong damn? Even though my muscles are not bulging like they used to,
Mhm.
but I still have muscles, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even 15 years ago, but I still, I've reaped the benefits. Every 6 months I go to the doctor and get my physical, and he's always amazed. Oh, I just don't see how you do it, But this is something I decided I wanted. I always thought back, especially when I was coaching football, and would tell a kid, and I say, "Hey, you need to lose 15 pounds. You'll be a lot quicker. For an instance, a little overweight. You know, and then I could picture a kid sitting up there listening to me say that, and then I got a gut hanging over my belt, and I'm telling the kid he needs to lose weight. And I could imagine him sitting there saying to himself, which he wouldn't say out loud, is, "Yeah, coach, you could use it too."
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
Yeah. So
So excellent advice. And in terms of exercising, start slow and progressively move up. You don't have to try to run a marathon your first day of working out. And also be patient with yourself and focus. And
yeah.
lastly, find an exercise partner if you can. Those are great pieces of advice, Uncle Lou.
And then they could join one of the clubs, where you go in and people will work with you and help you, you know, get get stronger and show you what weights or whatever other things that you may need to do to get you on the upper level, uh, you know, for conditioning,
Hmm. Hmm.
And, and like I say, bad habits are hard to break, but good habits is easy to be thrown to the side, off to the wayside.
Hmm.
Good habits, you stop doing it for a while, you ain't say, "Oh, what the use?" That's uh, you got to get that type of thing out of your system,
Hmm.
you know.
Hmm. That's it. That's it. Well, we really appreciate you sharing your wisdom with us on the importance of health and wellness and how we can do better individually with our own health and wellness. And we also appreciate you giving us all that great Texas history, which I wasn't expecting.
Well, I tell you what, like I said, if I'm born in 1940, so I went through this stages, segregation, integration, and up to where we are now, uh, and I'm thankful. You know, I find myself in, talking about, I guess on the religious side, I wake up every morning and I say, thank you, God, for another day,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for allowing me to be home and close my eyes in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't spontaneous, to be honest with you, even though I've always was in church. But I took a lot of things for granted. Even when I was being successful as a runner, successful as a coach. But like I tell kids sometimes, the light came on. I point at my forehead, meaning I sit down and I get to thinking, hey, how did you get this far? How were you successful? And I come to the conclusion, that song, God Grace,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
always been right here by my side,
Mm-hmm.
waiting for wake up for that light to come on. Hey, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still here. Still here,
Mm-hmm.
Melvin. I'm still here, Uncle Luke. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still here, Dad. I'm still here, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was just waiting on you to realize that, hey, I was right here all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying. And then when young teachers that say they're, engaged and fiance, I say, hey, please, if when you get married, hey, go to go to church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Find out that and always communicate. I mean, and that comes under health and wellness too,
It
where
sure
you really,
does.
you know, you know, but no,
Yep, it sure
that
does. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations on your 51-year history as a coach and 81 years of living and all the accomplishments you've had over your lifetime. And we just want to thank you for joining us here on the Empowerment Zone.
it was an honor to be here, and even more so honor to have you, my to interview me. We get to talk about it. I remember you. There's a few times, if you remember, you went and took off and ran with me when I came to Brownwood. And
Yep.
I always made it a point, you know, I always ran out to the cemetery um, to say thank you to all my relatives
Mm-hmm.
that had a lot to do with me growing up, not only just me, but my brothers and
Mm-hmm.
my sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Thank that, but like I say, that's me. Some people, once they put somebody in the ground, they don't want to go back no more. They don't want to remember the the sad part, but go back and think about all the good parts, instead of thinking of, the sadness of losing that person. Um, think about how they help you. And you had the honor of knowing Ain't Out and Ain't Carry. And they was mom and daddy too, even
Mm-hmm.
though, if you understand what I'm saying here,
Mm-hmm.
they gave us good advice also
Mm-hmm.
about life and some of the things we needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful, not only them but many others. My grandmother, um, I learned a lot of history about the Griffin family.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and what was the other family?
Harris.
Harris. And maybe one day you might ask me to come back and I could give you some history. I
Okay,
mean,
well,
some
that's, yeah, we can do that too.
that my aunt and Aunt Ada and Aunt Carrie and my grandmother. My grandmother was one of the oldest kids. She was born like in 1888.
Mm-hmm.
She could tell me so much history. You know,
Yep, they
and
not and they carry raised 5 generations. So and I'm one of the generations.
yeah, you're
Yep, I talk about them all the time. So thank you, Uncle Luke, for joining us, and I look forward to having you back.
Okay, I'll be glad to come back. I'm not nervous anymore.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right.
So today we have Melvin Louis Houston here with us today, and he's going to give us a strategy for college success. This is my Uncle Lou. What school? What college did you attend? What was your major? And then what advice would you give students for college success?
I attended Texas Southern University, and going back, you get, like I say, you get me to talking history. Decided to go to a black college because of so many things that I went through when I was at
Uh-huh.
and so I said whenever I go to eat, back when I was in high school, things were still a lot of segregation. And many a day I had to go eat in the kitchen at the restaurant because I wasn't allowed to eat in the restaurant. So that was the number one reason why I went to a black college. I always said, wherever we went, I would always be with my team no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times that I couldn't be with the team because of segregation,
Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give students?
Students is, it's you got to be disciplined and you got to be focused. And you're going to go through some tough times in college. You're going to have some tough classes. Hey, if you drop it, hey, you got to come back and take it anyway. So why don't you go ahead and get it done the first time?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be different. The professors is not going to call your parents, okay? Say you're not getting your work. That's different from school. You on your own. To go to college, unless you going to a private school, high school or whatever, you got to pay. But you also got to pay to go to college. And again, the teachers are not going to treat you. They're going to treat you like an adult. Let's put it like this. And sometimes, I guess when you go in even at 17, 18, 19-year-old to college, you still got a lot of that high school stuff into you. Well, they'll call my mom if I'm not getting my work, or my dad. No, they're not going to do that. They're not going to call. And they don't want your parents calling them also. You got to stay the course, and and like I say, you're going to have classes that's different. Like here in high school, you got to go basically all day long. Well, in college, you might go to 2 classes on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday and Thursday. Might go to 3 classes. Now, what are you going to do with that extra time? Are you going to take some of that time and get your work turned in? The parent, on the law of average, the professor is not going to send your grades to your parents. That's going to be your responsibility. But like I said, you got to stay focused. You got to be disciplined. And that's the same. And I think many athletes or someone that's involved in choir or swimming or something where you got to stay focused and get the job done. I think you'll quickly more adjust to college if you came under that background. I'm thankful for my athletic ability because it sure helped me get through college.
That's it. Well, we sure appreciate that advice, Uncle Lou. Be disciplined, stay disciplined, and stay focused, and make sure you realize you are an adult now and you have to take responsibility for your own education. Thank you so much for that advice, Uncle Lou.
All right.
All right, you.
Take care. Glad to get to talk with you.
Okay, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I've always been proud of you. You always stayed focused and stayed on course. Okay, now I'll get quiet.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Uncle Lou. And you've been you're part of my inspiration. So thank you.
Okay. All right.
Love you.
Love you too.
Okay.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bye.
A special thank you to the incredible team of the Empowerment Zone. Terry Gully, theme song. NADWorks, digital support, and of course, our featured guest.
If you enjoyed my podcast, please subscribe. We are on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to rate us on Apple Podcasts too. Thank you for your continued support.